you for sharing your languages with us today, and you can keep doing that in the chat while I speak. And so this talk today focuses on a project that I had the good fortune of collaborating on at CET, that's the Center for Educational Technology in my homeland, Israel. And I use it as a use case to talk about sharing languages and using the power of AI or technology in general, as we will see, to foster conversations, to share language, and to help kids learn the skills that we want them to learn for better collaboration and better emotion regulation and overall well-being. So we are all language people, I assume. I know Veronica and Lorraine are. So this talk is about intelligence, and intelligence comes from the Latin word that means understanding and discerning or paying attention to differences. And language is a major way we understand each other and communicate. So it's a very important feature of our human development from childhood on. And this talk is indeed about intelligence. So it's about artificial intelligence, but mostly about human intelligence and how we can use other types of intelligence to foster learning and development. And as people, as human beings, we are language creatures. So we are social beings that need to be understood, that need to be seen and acknowledged. And so in today's world, where a lot of classrooms in most parts of the United States and other where in the world have more than one language spoken in them. There are many kids that come from other countries or that have home languages that are different from English. It is a major issue to acknowledge when we come to foster social development and language sharing. And so in early age education, we also have this multiple languages seen in a lot of kindergartens. And the approach that I see taken in a lot of cases is the full immersion approach. So the school, the teachers, and all the supporting services that schools here have take the approach of helping children acclimate, helping children adapt, make new friends in the new place, and be up to speed on the academics of their classroom as fast as possible. And so it's a full immersion approach. They are being they study in English-speaking classes, and they get ELL lessons, one-on-one or group language lessons that help them learn English. And it's wonderful. It is a major goal to learn the language of the new place. But in the process, it is sometimes overlooked that sharing your own language while you're in the process of studying a new one is very important for well-being, for feeling comfortable learning other language, for sharing your identity and telling other people who you are. As we saw in the chat, like all languages have uniqueness in them that is more than just communicating meaning. It's also a special way to look at the world and to share your culture and your identity. So this project started in Israel, as I said, when we tried to look at kindergartens and see what opportunities we had to integrate technology to help kids learn social and emotional skills. This was just post-COVID in Israel, and like anywhere else in the world, we saw that children, especially young children, took a serious hit on their social skills development from all these months of social isolation, possibly a little too much screen exposure and engagement. And so as the Center for Educational Technology, our unique value proposition was always to see how technology can leverage human intelligence, human interactions, pedagogical approaches that we believe in. And so we identified two major opportunities in the kindergarten. One that was obvious after COVID, that's where children, they're people, little people, socialize, right? They spend a big chunk of their days in the company of peers, same age group or similar age group, that offers a range for playing together, but learning from peers and experimenting with a lot of social interactions and their consequences, positive and negative alike. That happens with some mediation, of course, from adults, but the peer group is very meaningful, and it's in Israel, it's a large peer group, like 30 kids in one kindergarten classroom at least. So that was one opportunity that we identified. And the second one was that kindergarten is probably the last time in the educational journey that kids go through, that kids have so many opportunities in their during the school day to engage with tangible play object and to learn experientially, to play in mud, with sand, to break things, to build things, to construct ideas, to let their imagination run free. And that's another opportunity that we identified. And as we observed kindergarten classes, and this study was precedented with a long period of watching and learning how kindergartens worked, we saw that there are largely two categories of play, of fun in the kindergarten. One is kids that play together with their friends without an adult being present. Well, they're present in the room, but not in the immediate interaction. So kids that arrive early to school, play with their peers. On recess time, there are many opportunities where kids sit around tables and play together, or in the yard. And there are lots of learning opportunities there. And the other scenario or type of play is guided play, that we also know from the literature that it's very conducive to learning. So kids participate in adult-led interactions that that offer opportunities for learning and for sharing, but with an adult mediation or facilitation. So both of these types of play offer unique opportunities for learning, and our solution, or what we were curious about, was how to integrate the benefits of each opportunity, of each type of play, and create a third type of play, which combines free play, so kids playing with their peers, and engaging with tangible objects in the natural environment of the kindergarten. But they're not doing it alone. There isn't a human adult present, but there is an AI avatar in this case that sees them, participates in the interaction to the extent that AI, when we developed it today, it's more advanced and more human-like even, but the technology can be present in the interaction and partake in it and mediate it. So What we offered was a facilitation of free play or children-focused interaction without a human adult, but with a peer, a technological peer, which is an AI avatar. And what we hoped this would create is indeed a balance between the benefits of child-driven learning with the advantages of guided or facilitated learning. Because we know from our classes, and you can share in the chat if you wish. I don't see you or the chat still, so it's a little weird, but please share, and I'll try to hop back and forth soon. So what we know is that not all kids can benefit from the advantages of child-driven learning. So some kids, when they find themselves in a peer-only context, just in the yard or around a table with other same-age children, they don't always benefit from learning. Some of them are shy. Some of them don't have the language skills or the communication skills to read a scene, a social scene, and take part in it. Some kids are sensitive and they need extra facilitation. So we hope that adding a guided learning aspect with AI, so with an avatar, would help those kids participate and add the advantages of guided learning without being constrained by having another teacher that will attend to that interaction, because we know that human resources don't always allow for interactions to be monitored, to be facilitated or all the time. And we also know from research from robot-human interaction that there are benefits to non-human facilitation. Does anyone have an idea what those may be? Like what could possibly be the benefit of a robot friend, not even teacher, but a friend that facilitates an interaction over a human teacher? You can unmute yourself and speak if you have an idea.
Well, I think that children would have more of a say, so it's not like the teachers controlling the conversation or giving them the idea before they came up with their own idea.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good point, and that's usually what I say, because human relationships are, of course, valuable, but they come with attachment and with a history. And coming to the interaction with an open heart or a new heart, like not remembering what the kid did yesterday or his history or his weaknesses or challenges, is very liberating. And also there are studies that show that once kids identify an adult as a pedagogical figure, right? It's like an authority figure. It may constrain their curiosity and, as Catherine said, their exploration. So research shows that kids are more willing to make mistakes when they interact with a robot or an avatar, and their perception of an avatar way more flexible, which allows a lot of projection and role-playing and adaptation to new situations that your classroom teacher will not be able to offer. So that's...
Perhaps it would promote some more self-confidence for the child, because doesn't have that, like you said, make mistakes, he doesn't have that constant peer. Sometimes they feel uncomfortable with another language to make those mistakes and to interact with their peers. So maybe an avatar would promote more self-confidence.
Right. Yeah, that's an excellent point. And to the mistakes aspect that you mentioned, indeed, like I think avatars or any AI driven tool is, I mean, we are free to mold it as we wish with whatever pedagogy we want. And so we can create a robot that models a certain mindset, like a growth mindset, but we can also create a robot that models mistakes and is a little silly and likes to fool around and do things wrong. And then kids can be positioned in the role of an adult or someone that does know the rules and knows how to behave, and they teach the robot, and then that puts them in a more confident position. Yeah, so that was our intention, and that was how Amit was born. So Amit is a Hebrew word for a friend or companion, and that's what we envisioned for this platform, to have a playful, confident scene where kids could play with themselves in the company of a companion who is AI driven. And the integration that we proposed was a table, just like a regular kindergarten classroom table with physical play objects on it. Our dream was to be able to let Amit facilitate play with any toy or play object that was present in any kindergarten classroom. But we started with play objects that we chose and trained Amit on because there was no digital interface to this interaction. So kids played with themselves, with each other, and with Amit, just as they would normally play in the kindergarten without an interface of a keyboard or a computer mouse or a joystick. The interface was a physical one. So Amit had a camera here on top of the screen and speakers. And with object recognition technology, we could identify the children. So Amit could address them with their own names. And we recognized hand gestures. So the way the kids communicated with Amit was with their voices, but she couldn't understand what they were saying. So we had to use hand gestures, which was really, really beneficial for kids with lower language skills. And we did have a wide spectrum of those. And she could also identify the objects on the table. So we used all of these visual measures to know what was going on around the table and to facilitate the interaction.
If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, ooh, yeah, yeah. If you're tossing and you're turning and you just can't fall asleep, I'll sing.
Okay, so this was Amit. I went too long in this talk without showing kids, happy kids, so it was time. And these are the play objects that we used in the first round, on this first round of the study. We had jigsaw parts in a game we called the Robot Factory, where kids learned about geometrical concepts, shapes and line types and orientation with while building robots, which they love. They could also decorate the robots because the parts were made of an erasable board. They loved that. We had the blocks that an activity that we call the animal blocks, where kids could create animals in response to riddles, like to word puzzles. So for example, like on the screen, you see a parrot, and Amit asked them word puzzles. They were rhymed, so they learned a lot about phonology also. Um, um, and had to guess what animal she was referring to. And each clue she gave them was another trait of the animal that could be responded with a specific block. So we had a color block and a habitat block and a cover block, like is it covered with feathers or with spikes or with fur, and movement block and food or nutrition block. And it was a very symbolic activity, but kids really loved it, and they loved making mistakes with it on purpose to see their responses. And if they got the animal right, it created it generated the animal on the screen, and kids also loved that. And that was like a multimodal experience of sounds and visuals, of course, and it was very interactive. And we had stories, so we used the book Where the Wild Things Are, and kids read it together with Amit. So Amit was designed to be a peer, so a kindergarten level reading pre-literate. So we used another character that played the role of the more adult, teacher, responsible, one that knows all the rules. And she read the book, but the kids could control the pace of reading by flipping the pages. So turning the pages control the speed of reading. And Amit stopped to ask questions about vocabulary and about the plot and about the illustrations, which really modeled story time skills, like collaboration, explanation, making a narrative, understanding a narrative, and so forth. And Amit also invited the children to move their bodies a lot. So this was not like usually when we think about technology in those ages, we are worried that kids will be stranded in front of a screen and not move and not interact. So this was the opposite. Like basically we made sure that every concern that both specialists and parents raised with kids with screens in the kindergarten classroom was answered. So the activities also invited kids to move their bodies to communicate with Amit. They could raise their hands or do like a like sign or show Amit stuff on the table to refer to what they were building or solving at the point. But there were also just fun activities like a dance party at the end of each session. So
Welcome to the party. Let's dance.
there are always kids watching in the background. Like the activities were very exciting to kids when we came to the kindergarten. So there were always bystanders. It was fun. Okay, so technologically at the time, this was before LLMs when we started working on Amit. So the automatic visual recognition was not easy not an easy challenge, especially if you know how kindergarten classes work and how frantically kids move around so much. So to identify kids that sometimes cover their faces with hats or as plasters or decide that they're Batman for the day, and it's really hard to recognize them, made it a little challenging, but we found solutions to most of those recognition issues. How am I doing with time? Not so bad. Does anyone have questions so far? I need some human interaction. Okay, I can continue. So the design principles that we used, I'll just go quickly over them. But we were inspired by several types of literature in the early education research field. So the major one was social robots or virtual companions. And I think I learned so much from collaborating with experts in this field. Our main collaborator was Professor Goran Gordon from the Tel Aviv University, now at Indiana University, who specializes in social robotics for children and also like young adults, like university students. And social robots are basically robots that are programmed to emulate human behavior, social behavior, and support learning of a wide range of learning goals like language, vocabulary, discussion leaders. We have social robots that lead discussions in the classroom and also foster social and emotional skills like model curiosity and model growth mindset. And his research and others showed that children are very amenable to interaction with social robots. They're very curious about them and that they learn from them. So very, I wouldn't say easily, but research shows that children pick up on social cues that robots give them and learn social concepts like pro-social behavior, help behavior, help in storytelling, and mindset, which is more, I guess, cognitive than social, but has an effect on social and emotional learning as well. And research also shows that the way you design the robot and your choices of aesthetics, is it a cute robot? Does the robot look like an animal or like an adult? And their personalities, do they tell jokes? Do they make mistakes? Do they ask you questions about yourselves? And the way they engage. So for example, if they try to copy your behavior or to match their facial expressions, if they have facial expressions to yours, makes a huge difference on how amenable the kids are to learning from the robots. So the more the robot coordinates their behavior with the children's, like mimicking facial expressions or asking them questions about themselves or using the language that they use, that's more conducive to empathy. So we saw that the research showed, and we saw also in our study, that the more similar the behavior of the robot is to the kids, they empathize with it more, and their perceptions of the robots are more human-like, which was very important for us to know and to build on in advanced. And also our choice of tangible user interfaces. So the play objects were the interface for the activities, right? They didn't have any symbolic interface like a keyboard. That is also widely used in the game, in the game industry for young children and in education. And we see that interactive play objects that are used as an interface encourage kids to collaborate more. Of course, you can collaborate on a screen, but the fact that it's three-dimensional on a table and resembles more away from keyboards activities really helps with collaboration, with perspective taking, with communication, and it builds confidence through hands-on learning, trial and error. So our question was, what can we teach with a Meet? Like, which learning goals are best achieved through this interactive platform that we build? How can we support social skills in this shared learning space, and what design features are best for this purpose? How would kids perceive a Meet? What would their perceptions of a Meet as a companion would be? And maybe most importantly, how would teachers perceive a Meet, accept a Meet, and welcome her into their classrooms? This was a big question because in our initial preliminary surveys and interviews with teachers, we heard a lot of excitement, but also a lot of fear and a lot of worries and even anger, I would say, or very strong emotions of why do we need robots in our classroom? Why do we need more screens at an age where kids are exposed to so much technology, to so much screen time? And yeah, and when people said this is like outrageous, that they were outraged by this concept before they met a Meet and before they saw kids interacting with a Meet. And you can share now in the chat if you wish, like, what would you think if I would come to your classroom and suggest this platform with a Meet or a similar platform? Like, what would be your reaction or your major or main concern? Okay, so these were our questions. Nope. Oh, how did this happen? Wait a second. Just 1 second. This. Okay. So this was the study. We visited over 50 kindergarten classes around Israel in 9 cities. And most of our classrooms were Hebrew-speaking classrooms with, of course, multilingual, some bilingual children or new immigrants that had Russian as their home languages or Arabic as their home language. But we also visited kindergartens in Taibe, which is an Arabic speaking town, like mostly Arabic speaking town, and the kindergartens that we visited there were Arabic speaking. So they were bilingual because the teachers did speak only Arabic, but had Hebrew language classes or activity incorporated in the curriculum. So it was very interesting for us to see how kids would accept a Meet, who is a Hebrew-speaking robot at that point, before she became more multilingual or more flexible with languages, how they would accept a Meet and how they would interact with her from the language point of view. And the way we designed the study at that point was offer 2 types of facilitation. So the kids played with the Meet. It was always 4 kids, a group of 4 kids in one session, 2 boys and 2 girls. We tried to create a heterogeneous mix of skills, of ages, and we let the teachers make up the groups. In a lot of classes, these were already pre-made groups that teachers used for group activities in general. And some kids interacted with Amit while she offered social facilitation. So this was facilitation that tried or aimed to promote social skills like help behaviors, explanations, collaboration, and sharing. And the other group, the control group, interacted with Amit, and Amit offered task facilitation. So this was a narrative that promoted the game or participation in the activity without putting emphasis on the social aspect of it. So here you can see some examples. In the task facilitation, Amit would address one specific kid, and she said, what can you add to your robot? What else is missing? While in the social condition, she would invite the whole group, like four kids group, to participate and help the participant that had a problem or a challenge, so to collaborate and solve it together. Sorry. So she modeled collaboration. She invited the kids for collaboration and collaborative problem solving, and also gave feedback on social, pro-social behaviors. So she could discern collaboration from object recognition and just the position of the kids or their location. And most importantly, and I didn't mention that, she had the kids had a speaker that recorded the amount of speech, so how many words per minute kids spoke, and also the identity of speakers. So we knew who spoke when, and we analyzed some of that speech, not all of it. So both automatically we could gauge how much speech was done in each of the groups, in each of the sessions, and we could also, of course, listen in because everything was recorded for the study. Okay, do we have a question? Yes, someone raised a hand. Was that a mistake or? Okay. Rosanna, did you have a question?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I do have a question.
Sure.
In the program, in the study, when you're doing when the avatar was presented to the group, was it only for one language? In our district, we teach in our preschool. Sometimes we are faced with like 4 or 5 different languages in the classroom. So would this program address all the languages in one group? I like, how would that work?
So that's an excellent question, and that is our next step with Amit. Okay. And that's a good, I think we have several options that we're going to test in the study. So in this study that I'm describing, it was Amit spoke Hebrew. Okay. Whether it was Hebrew-speaking kids or Arabic-speaking kids learning Hebrew. And that's one approach you can take, right? That's like the full immersion robot. With the Arabic-speaking kids, she did know Arabic to the extent it was included in the activities scripts. So, for example, for the story, she knew the translation in Arabic for all the words. And Amit modeled vocabulary questions. So she asked the other character that was reading the book, what does this mean? What does this mean in Arabic? But for the other activities, it was very sparse, sorry. Like it wasn't built into the program. But for our next step, we do plan to to visit multilingual classes and have Amit be either monolingual. So again, like the original research, original study, just speak English or like one language, or monolingual. So address the main language in the classroom, if it's Spanish or another language, and translate what she says, or scientific concepts if it's like a STEM activity, or technical concepts to address the other language needs in the classroom. So yeah, so that's a really good questions that we are hoping to answer soon. Okay, I see that we are running out of time. So I'll share what we saw in the study. First of all, we show that Amit or the activities were efficient in teaching kids what we were aiming to teach them. So the learning goals. Specifically in the story, these are results from the Arabic-speaking kids, and it was very heartwarming and encouraging to see that their vocabulary in Hebrew grew, and they weren't familiar with the target vocabulary beforehand. So we saw that this wasn't significant, but the task completion was slightly higher in the task condition. So kids that were encouraged to focus on the task indeed focused on the task and completed it more, while kids that were focused on social interaction completed it a little less on average. You see that there's a lot of variance here. And that makes sense because in the social condition, and that I think is the most important, might be the most important finding, kids spend more time talking to each other than in the other condition, we just focused on the task. So what we saw was that kids were, first of all, were very, very excited by Amit. So the first two activities in each block, like when kids were just getting to know Amit, were about the onboarding process, like getting comfortable talking to a robot and testing her limits. So Amit got at least one marriage proposal from kids and a lot of play date invitations from kids. They were really eager to speak to her and to find out what she could understand and what she couldn't, and how she deals with like a little test of boundaries. And so they were very excited, and they mostly spoke to Amit and not to them, like within the group. But as time moved on, we saw the interesting thing we saw was that kids were more and more focused on the group and on the social interaction. And then the manipulation that we chose, whether it was social or task focused, worked. So in the social condition, they talked more between them within the group with each other, and we saw the discourse, so the kind of conversation that they had were more social. They went beyond the here and now of the activity. And that was very encouraging, because I think the power of this technology is not interacting with the robot. It's how the robot can help children interact with themselves better, or in a more conducive way to what we want to instill. And another interesting finding that we saw in the post-session interview, so after the experiment was over, we asked kids how did they enjoy the activities and what did they think of their group. So kids stayed in the same team, a Meet team, for the whole sessions for the course of the study. And we saw that children that got the social mediation, the social facilitation, reported more help behaviors within their groups. So they thought their group members were more helpful, less negative, so less hitting, less harassing each other. And they reported having more fun and chose to play with the same group in the future more often than the kids in the other group that didn't get the social facilitation. So this was very encouraging to me because it first of all, it said that Amit mattered. She wasn't just a robot on the screen that interacted with the kids and got them very excited because it's a new technology and kids love new technology. They take after us. They have to learn how to interact with it and what they can get out of it. And a lot of people around us worried that the effects of Amit would be an artifact of that excitement, that Amit doesn't really matter to learning or to social interaction. She's just fun to be with, which is also nice, but you don't need a robot for that. You can put YouTube on or like another gadget. So I think these results, the speech amount and also the social report of the kids really speak to the strength of avatars or robots like Amit to make a difference in how children interact with each other. I think we're running out of time, so I'll just briefly conclude. It was really fun to interview kids about Amit. These are drawings that the kids made for Amit when she left their kindergarten, and where they tell us what they liked and what they liked most. Like some said that Amit was his best friend in the kindergarten. And we asked them questions about the personality of Amit, like how old do you think she is and what games would you play with her, but also about their perception of Amit and how flexible they thought she was, like how many languages do you think she can speak? Can she replace your kindergarten teacher? Will Amit help you if you... and for the language teaching purpose, we interviewed the Arabic-speaking kindergarten teachers, and they, as all teachers, thought that human mediation was crucial during Amit activities. And we did see that in classes where teachers were more involved, so they displayed more like positive, they had a very positive welcome session for Amit, and we heard them explain to the kids that Amit is now a kindergarten member, and they explain the rules of interacting with Amit and were more into it. It really led to better sessions, better interactions with Amit, where kids were more interactive and more committed and followed the not many rules, but the interaction rules that we told them. They did say that activity time should be limited to 20 minutes, and that was the average. We couldn't control it to the second because Amit was interactive and she responded to kids' behavior, so it varied, but 20 minutes was the ideal time to interact with Amit. More than that, some kids were losing or experiencing an attention drop or losing interest. I wouldn't say losing interest. It was more like attention and how much they could try to succeed in the activity and participate. They did see the support in the social skills that we were aiming to, which we were glad. And the Arabic-speaking teachers said it's not like a very high number of teachers, but they did say that Amit was a good model for Hebrew speaking and vocabulary learning, which is a major issue in the multilingual classroom, right? So not every teacher could attend to any language need. We don't all speak every language out there, and it's often hard to support and to make children that speak another language feel welcome and heard. And so Amit can be programmed to speak or to understand any language, and that's a major benefit, not just because children see her in a more flexible way because she's a robot, but also because of that technical issue of not every teacher being capable of speaking all languages. Okay, so I think the way I look at this technologies, again, AI or technology, human-human interaction, I think that the thing that I'm mostly interested in is how the guidance that technology can offer in the interaction promotes the group interaction, promotes how or changes how students, children interact with each other. And if we use a language model or an adaptive technology that can actually respond to the way kids interact with each other, that then we create a feedback loop that just, grows that initial tendency that kids have anywhere. Kids want to help each other. Kids want to participate. Kids want to succeed if they can. And sometimes with the help, with a little help from our technological friends, we can leverage that and show the good in each kid and the way they can help each other. And we did see that in the Meet classrooms. Because we watched the classroom interactions before we introduced the Meet, we saw that some kids who are on the autistic spectrum, for example, even pre-diagnosed or underdiagnosed children, we saw them sitting alone in recess or like in yard playground time and not participating and not taking part of in the social interaction. And when they were around their Meet table, kids, they made an effort to participate, and it was easier for them to participate because when you interact with a robot, everything is more predictable and structured. A Meet would not know how to respond if a kid threw a tantrum, and kids really helped them to partake in the activity because it was a group activity, and every hiccup, like every kid that stalled or made a mistake, actually affected, the whole group and the pace that they were advancing. So it was very heartwarming to see these kids when in a structured, facilitated context thrive. Okay, yeah, we talked about that. So our next steps are indeed targeting a multilingual classroom context. And we do want to play and test several different scenarios of the personality or the character features that the Meet will have in that context. So as I said before, we wish to test a monolingual scenario. So it could be that just by the force of facilitation, so if a Meet encourages collaboration, pro-social behaviors, or helping, translating, kids will do the work themselves. Kids will explain what a word in English means and share the equivalent in their language. It could be the case because we saw that happening in the Arabic-speaking kindergartens. And the other conditions that we are thinking about are a mix of bilingual or multilingual facilitation. So it could be that Amit will translate every target word or expression into another language that's present in the group, like Spanish or Mandarin. And it could be that she would just listen in and detect when children speak with each other another language and then respond and kind of leverage that for sharing language purposes, like say, oh, did you notice they said rodando, round, in Spanish? And that's what it means in Spanish. What other words can you share with us? It's really interesting. Yeah, so I think we ran out of time, unfortunately. I did have one last chat question for you. So incorporating a robot in our classes is not yet so easy or affordable, and like at least until this study is completed, and then it's all over. But there are other ways that we can look at the results of these studies and others to help us share languages. And what I wanted to invite you to think about as we leave or conclude is what ways you can use technology to help children share languages with each other without necessarily, I know you're doing a lot of work in sharing languages with the help of human intelligence, of human-led, teacher-led activities. But there are also ways we can think of creating an environment in the classroom where kids share their languages more freely, they feel comfortable to do it. So you're welcome to write in the chat before we leave if you have any ideas or practices that you already perform to do that. And I think some of them, yeah, these are some ideas that I had, and I'll send you a list of tools that I usually that I kind of put together, as many tools come out all the time to do that. Yeah, thank you for your collaboration and listening.